Okay, so welcome to the Vindolanda video blog, and we are actually about halfway through the 2013 excavations, and what I'm going to try and do is use the great vantage point of the spoil tip to give you a general overview of the site and where we are so far this season before we clear the spoil tip next week on our recording week and then move further towards the south. So what I'm actually standing on will hopefully be removed in the next fortnight, and from where we are at the moment we're looking towards the eastern gate of the fort, which is in this area here, and we've been concentrating efforts a little bit on the eastern rampart, because elsewhere on ramparts at Vindolanda we've found a plethora of different features, late firing platforms, the famous temple to Jupiter Dolicanus, copper alloy work and workshops, but unfortunately this rampart that we have running down here appears to have been relatively quiet, other than one really quite large rubbish pit cut into the centre of it. It's basically just been the spread of the clay and the building debris from presumably the builders of the fort wall in 213 that have thrown the unwanted refuse into the makeup of the rampart. Still a really nice feature of the Roman fort though. And then moving slightly further to the west, this area there is a small area of soil that's basically covering up the cobbles of the Intervallum Road, and we've got a beautiful drain running down one side of it. And then you can see the start of walls here of buildings coming out, and also really late walls of buildings starting to emerge from the soil down here as well. This area in the sort of southeast of where we've been excavating is still a little bit of a jumble at the moment. There's a lot more work left to do in there, a lot of ploughed, turned over stones, and it's proven quite difficult to sort out the actual stratified remains, the flag floors and the walls from the disturbed material of presumably the Victorian plough. But we are making progress in this area. You can see flagstones down here of the 4th century floors that we've been recovering in the last few weeks. And as we move further to the west, the great big scour of the robber trench, I think I showed you in the last video there, we've now traced its outline all the way around, and unbelievably within 30 centimetres of the edge of the robber trench we've got another foundation of a 4th century wall coming all the way down here and moving right outside the western edge of our trench down there. So obviously more work to do in that regard as well. And at the moment I think what we have are probably at least three levels of human occupation. We've got the two barracks aligned east-west, contemporary with the foundation of the fort in 213. They line up beautifully with the back of the Praetorium, and this building behind the fence down there. So they're swinging across in that direction, and their back wall again parallel with the back of the Praetorium down here, still covered over in places. That appears to have been demolished at some stage, probably in the 4th century, and we've got the most enormous building that runs the full width of the trench. This is its southern wall here, all the way up, right the way to again around about that sort of area there, and then heads off to the north, and then its northern wall is pretty much directly underneath the metal barrier there. And again it's actually progressing, we've found with excavation this week, beyond the western limits of our trench, so we're obviously going to have to strip more turf off over here in the near future to chase its western end. We've got individual cross walls that come across there, suggesting it's had individual partitions, quite badly plough damaged, and we obviously need to sit down and really analyse the material culture to get a good idea of what that building's been, but a strong possibility it's been Roman barrack block, I think. And then the third phase of activity, well, we'll pick this up really in the first few weeks of the excavation. If I zoom in ever so slightly there, maybe a bit too much. We've got this beautiful wall coming down here, again turns the corner and moves east to west, and then moves pretty much back towards my bags there. That seems to be a freestanding independent structure, very, very late in date. It's actually cut through the foundations of the 4th century building, so that's moving into the sub-Roman period, we think. And for the results of about 13 weeks of work now, 12 or 13 weeks of work, admittedly aided by terrific weather, we've got an enormous amount of the overburden cleared and down to stratified Roman levels, mainly 4th century, little bits of evidence for the 3rd century features poking through too, and we've also managed to take out the robber trench. So the next stage is to remove the small mountain of soil that everybody's created over the last 12 or 13 weeks. Once that's done in our recording week, we'll be able to progress work further from the edge of the trench down to the south, and hopefully If we get the same sort of weather that we've had so far this season, we'll be able to marry that up with the back wall of the south wall of the fort and the latrine block there, right the way around the corner to the southeastern corner, and a firing platform. And hopefully we should, by the end of the season, I think, have this a long way to having its 4th century levels exposed, which would be a fabulous way to end the season. So fingers crossed for a prolonged period of dry weather as we've had in the first half of the season. Anyway, more to come in due course.